listening to Anja Asks Anybody. And today, my guest is poet Ed Makowski. Hello, my friend, Ed.
Hi, good evening. I'm pleased to be anybody tonight.
Yeah. So, anybody, are you sometimes no one at all?
When I'm at home, I think so.
Wow. So you are a person in the world and then you go home. How do you enter the house?
Depends on the mood, depends how I got there. If I rode my bike, if I drove my car, front door, back door, snow boots, kick 'em off, what have you.
And then once you take off your snow boots or your snowshoes or your bicycle, you become nothing?
Well, I think when I'm alone, I'm probably relatively unaware of myself. I just am. I imagine that's how most people are. When they're alone, they don't have a sense of themselves because they don't have to do anything special to be on display.
Yeah. You must not be the youngest child.
You're right. I'm the oldest of two.
That makes a lot of sense.
But
yeah.
Now I'm curious. Are you the youngest?
I am. So
And-
I'm always thinking about how I am perceived.
Oh, interesting.
And even to myself. Yeah. It's like having a perpetual audience at all times, sleeping and waking.
And you're both a part of that audience and the presenter, the performer?
Yes, the amount of times I'm in the bathroom and in the mirror, I shoot myself a little knowing glance at what we were just thinking. It's something. And then I'm like, who is this person who is so insane to do that?
Well, it sounds like you entertain yourself,
Yeah.
which is crucial.
Exactly. Well, you are someone who entertains yourself a great deal. I can tell from your poetry because it's often kind of funny.
I think so. I appreciate things that are manifold, that aren't just one direction. The whole salty and sweet at the same time.
Do you have an example of that in your lap?
Yes, in these papers, I do indeed, I would say. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. This is called Surrogate Ice Skating. At a workplace holiday party, showing a coworker's toddler how to ice skate. Explaining, exaggerating, the counterintuitive technique that bending knees and pushing blades outward, away from the body, propels a person zig-zag forward. An older coworker, grandfather himself, watched us a while, then said nonchalant, "Good fathering, Ed." I gasped at him and almost crumbled onto the ice in a thaw of tears, unaware those past years I'd been desperate for some fellow dad to tell me I wasn't failing entirely at this peculiar safari bumbling toward fatherhood. Finally, unexpectedly, here, carving the frozen bonfire pond alongside all of my coworkers. Wasn't even my kid.
Well, that's the sign of good fathering.
I never thought about it that way.
I think it's very strange when one's parenting is limited to only their own brood.
That's curious because a lot of the, aside from the toddler age set, a lot of the feedback I often observe is very much like, well, you're not my dad, so go ahead and do that over there.
Yeah. Well, that's
Not that I try to over-insert myself.
no.
I definitely have a tendency to leave people be.
Well, yeah. I think that is good. I think a heavy hand in any human interaction is irritating.
Yeah, I think.
Advice is irritating. Sorry. Continue.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
I lean toward leaving people alone, and it's hard sometimes because you think you may have things to offer, but
Well, people who are a toddler humans, they need more guidance than your average person.
that's true.
Yes. Um so how did you get here today?
I drove in the car.
Did you notice anything?
I wore my mittens. I noticed. What did I notice? It's a pretty brief drive here, a good 8 blocks or so. So I didn't notice a whole lot. I brought my garbage cans back up from the street and drove straight here with my mittens on. I like wearing my mittens.
Do you find it dangerous driving with mittens? I also drove with mittens and questioned my choices.
I can usually do pretty well with them. Or maybe I just have the sense of their tactile nature pretty nailed down. The other day I was speaking of driving danger. I was driving to a meeting about mountain bike trail use in the area. And I pulled out behind 2 cars that didn't have their lights on and the one behind me with its brights on.
Oh.
And it just seemed like such an odd metaphor for why I'm going to a trail to ride bikes on a mountain bike trail instead of maybe on city streets. Like, what a strange metaphor that was. Like, I'm literally going to this to discuss the idea of riding mountain bikes, not on the street. And I'm like, wow, everyone surrounding me is not driving safely in the dark.
In their own unique, irritating way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So have you completed anything project-wise, artistically, or some other endeavor recently?
Well, speaking of fathering, my kid went off to college, so I started all these new things I've kind of maybe neglected while that was my main focus the past, give or take, couple decades. So I tiled a black backsplash in my kitchen behind the sink, which I'd never done. I really haven't tiled before. I started painting. I started drawing more. All kinds of other home projects. I've been working on this 1.5 motorcycles I have in my basement to turn into one functional motorcycle at some point. So I've been indulging all these projects I kind of disregarded while focusing on actively parenting for the past several years.
Yeah. Do you find now that your young one has left the house, do you find the shape of fatherhood changing, or is it a role you are shucking altogether?
It changes depending upon the age of the person. You eventually arrive at this more advisory role than an active, hey, watch out for the dangerous stuff, kind of guide. And it's important, and you go back and forth. There's times where you're like, wow, we're just pals. And then all of a sudden you're, oh, I gotta be the other adult now.
Yeah.
Abruptly at this moment.
I'm not a parent, but a parent one time told me that being a parent means basically trying to keep another human alive for 20 years of your life.
Yeah, my approach has always been the most important thing is to make it hard for your kid to get dead. whatever that means in whatever era they're living in. Like, teach them how to survive in that moment.
Yeah.
And other than that, I always thought it was odd when teachers would talk about shaping and molding minds. I always kind of thought people arrive in some way who they are and who they're going to become, and I think it's important to pay a lot of attention and aid and be a bit of an editor and going, oh, you seem interested in this. Why don't we try that out?
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but I suppose molding and shaping minds sounds a little bit like mind control.
It's a little kooky. And I remember having teachers that seemed to have that approach that was heavy-handed, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And I didn't really take to it.
Yeah. I feel like I had an extremely heavy-handed childhood, so it's I find this conversation particularly interesting as a non-parent and a person who comes from a heavy-handed raising background. This is an interesting approach. So now you're dusting off the cobwebs, emerging from intense fatherhood. Who is this person you inhabit now?
It's kind of a strange feeling, because you have so much of a default presumption of what your time should be, and now I'm kind of rediscovering. I mean, it's not that corny. I'm not rediscovering the butterfly of myself that's now metamorphosizing. Like, I'm who I am. I just have more time to sit quietly and think with my coffee and decide what kind of art thing I want to make later. I've been writing all these kind of short, brief, kind of stoic, philosophical poems.
Do you have any with you?
Thinking about relationships a lot. Hoping to become better at being around people in life,
Yeah.
This is an example of such things. Waking up daily to flaws in the data set. We audition spouses by eating until discomfort and drinking beyond reason while surrounded by strangers and drowning our senses in elaborate flashbulb glitter amusement park distractions as a scrimmage for a lifetime of sitting in a quiet room alone together. Then we're baffled when the research methods of constant external interaction don't accurately predict in practice for the roaring silences of every morning kitchen.
Wow. So if you want to have a stable relationship, maybe don't take them to Great America for every date.
I think you have to practice just being together, being alone, being bored, not being overstimulated. I think it's helpful to have some practice for that. And similarly, shall I do another one of these?
Yeah, please.
Imaginary fence. Any relationship is an entity separate from, yet curated by each participant. Not unlike a child, created and shepherded, then evolving independently. Though instead of brick and mortar construction, a relationship exists within an entirely imaginary realm containing shared delusions which all participants passively or actively agree to reinforce.
Wow, that's downright. I mean, would you say that's nihilistic?
I don't know. And
Or existential?
I think it's somewhat existential.
Yeah.
But I also don't mean it to just be like, say you work for a company. All of the people subscribe in some greater or lesser amount to the ethos of the company. They accept that this is the mythology that they're going to subscribe to or ascribe to while they're involved.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, that's definitely very clear in a corporate environment. You kind of get a kind of like a religion feeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or a nonprofit setting like
Oh,
these birds are our charismatic fauna, you know.
yes.
We fight for them.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they have to write so many grants. They always have to have a mission statement and really believe it, even when the mission falls short or
Yep.
has nothing to do with the task at hand, which can happen a lot, especially if you're writing grants and the mission and the grant are a little different, but the money's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think in any form of relationship, we accept this amount of conclusion. We decide to kind of self-delude
Yeah.
to a greater or lesser extent, whatever we agree to.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy the delusion I create with you, friend. Yeah, how has your work changed over your lifetime of practice, and how and why?
I think I've gotten better at knowing when to get myself out of it. I think when I was younger, I needed to be a central star of everything, or I needed to be a crucial facet, or there needed to be some kind of end point where I say, well, here's what I think of that. And sometimes I go back and reread things, and I'm like, why am I in that? Why am I so present?
Yeah.
I can make the observation and then describe the setting and what happened. I don't need to be inserting myself needlessly.
Ownership.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like younger artists are all about the I. I declare that I.
You got to have a platform.
Yeah.
And you have to differentiate yourself. And that's part of what being young is, too, is just saying, like, this is how I differentiate myself with this hair color and these shoes and
Yep.
that sweatshirt and this music you hear and all that good stuff.
Yeah. You have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I think I've also taken more of a focus on intentional craft and trying to pay attention to how the words sound against one another. I think I just wrote for so many years, like, oh, if I write these things, it feels better, and I don't have them bouncing around in my way any longer.
So when you're writing, are you thinking, or editing rather, are you thinking of the poem for the page or for the stage?
A little bit of both. I do, if I can, I like to make things rather sculptural looking if possible. But the way I read it aloud doesn't always hew to that structure, because I know it well. I can read it however I want to, I suppose. I don't have to read the way it looks.
Yeah, so you have poems that look or are even perhaps worded one way for the page, but when you perform them, they are slightly different.
That could be. I try to make them sound natural, even if visually it's sculptural. When I speak them, I usually try to make them sound natural. But honestly, I don't really perform anymore. So I'm almost talking about
I saw
a
you
thing.
perform 2 months ago, and then you had a poem about a word you were really thrilled finally made it into a poem.
I performed 2 months ago, did I?
You did. Maybe it was 3, but at QWERTY Fest.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. One poem, sure.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about that.
It was more than one poem, though, wasn't it?
I think it was just the one.
Okay. Well, I will confess that when I was leaving QWERTY Fest, I was picking up my stuff and I saw a ball of paper
Oh,
on the table, and I thought, who dropped this? And it was your poetry.
oh,
And so I kept it, and I read it, and
Oh.
you had a poem in it about I forget what word. It might have been like notwithstanding or something like
Oh,
that.
heretofore.
Heretofore, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was all excited because I used heretofore in a poem, and then I took it out, and it's such a goofy word. It's so playful and upright standing. It feels silly to be in a poem, but I enjoyed writing about having used it and then edited it out. So unfortunately, I hadn't heretofore in a poem.
And then you wrote a poem about that.
Exactly.
So that you could have heretofore in a poem. And that was the poem I read. Yeah.
I like playing with them. It's funny that you picked those up. I tend to leave. I mean, if I go somewhere and do poems, I just leave them there because what am I going to do with them?
So you litter.
I
You literary.
Well, it's like oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's I figure it's like a minor offering. Like if I had tobacco, I'd leave that too.
Yeah.
I just have poems instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I threw mine into the audience when I was done reading each page in a similar but more performative.
That was dramatic.
offering.
I found that very entertaining. I enjoyed that a great
Feel
deal.
free to steal the technique. So sometimes I like to ask people for assignments for our listeners. What's a creative task you would suggest people try if they're interested?
Sure, yeah. Here's one that people could do. Recall the last time a scent made you feel a jolt or a chill, or you felt your face make a surprise grin in response to that observation. Then think about what the memory is behind that resonance. Go for a walk, thinking about that memory that led to that moment and what has resulted since. Then write about it during your walk or once you return. And considering recording yourself talking while moving can be a fruitful part of the drafting process. I find a lot of poems arrive to me in the shower or while washing dishes or while exercising or walking or activity for me is where it seems I can't be too busy, but if I'm splitting firewood or riding a motorcycle or something, it's not uncommon to arrive to my destination with 3 new poems in my head.
Okay, so if you are driving your car and watching TV, that's typically not when you think of a poem.
Driving a car can work.
Right, but not if you're also watching TV.
But not watching TV, correct. I agree. I work in Madison. I live in Milwaukee, so the first 45 minutes of the drive is not very productive, but after that I get kind of bored, and then I start having thoughts and memories, and I end up oftentimes arriving to work with a poem or two in my head.
Oh, interesting. So do you record yourself? Do you just set the recorder on record when you get in the car, and then at a certain point you begin to...
I'll oftentimes record just fragments of something and do like a Google Doc on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my poems now at this point are written on I'd say 60% of my poems are written on my phone because it's just the handiest way to go about it.
Sure. You want to read something else?
Oh, yeah, related to the possible assignment.
Give us an example of the assignment that you've done.
This came to mind while I was cooking. It's called Where the Bread Has Been. Standing in the kitchen at my first apartment, I wondered out loud, if you use a knife to cut a piece of bread, is the knife really dirty? My roommate, Ginger, gasped and protested, Eddie, that's gross. You don't know where that bread's been. These years later, I still wonder about the unknown hijinks of our baked goods. While we slept soundly, then spent daytime lives working in office buildings, absent-mindedly attending weddings and funerals and marching band rehearsals. Meanwhile, the sourdough and cinnamon raisin left unsupervised to gallivant the neighborhood unchaperoned, consorting back alleys and flop houses with savory and unsavory characters alike.
So was the scent bread?
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
What was the moment that you hit the smell of bread?
I think so there's this company in Madison that makes this really wonderful bread buns. They've got cheese on top of the buns that are excellent for using for soup. And I think I was making soup, thinking about those buns that reminded me of this bread musing when I was 21 years old or 22 or whatever. And I wasn't really even talking. I was just talking, thinking out loud. And yeah, my roommate clarified that for me.
Yeah. That sounds like the thought of a young man, too, of like, what can I get away with not cleaning?
Right. Exactly. Though I will say I still kind of am like, what kind of bread? Maybe it depends. If it's just wheat, maybe it's not terrible.
Yeah, as long
Maybe
as
it could be
no one in your
rebreaded.
household has a extreme celiac disease situation.
If that was the case,
Yeah.
I sure wouldn't have.
Yeah, if you were
bread
my
in the house
roommate,
anyway.
you'd have the knife through your head. That was unnecessarily violent.
It's okay.
Yeah. Is there something you avoid as a poet?
There are things I definitely avoid as a person, but I don't think as a poet. I think if anything, I think you should probably pursue what you avoid in your writing, in your work, and that's the best way to go about it. It's a line I really like by a poet named Stephen Jesse Bernstein. He said, find the hurt place and don't ever let it heal. Get that blank hanging on the wall and tear 'em loose. And to me, like, not necessarily, like, yeah, like, figure out how to fix yourself. That's useful. But also, plumb where your hurt comes from and make art out of it.
Yeah, don't try to put a bow on it or avoid it.
Put a bow on it if necessary, if that's part of it. Sure. Be playful with it. Engage it. But I don't think avoiding it is going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that wonderful note, we're going to close the show with Ed Makowski. Is there anywhere where people can find your work?
Oh, I mean, there's the internet. You can search my name, myname.com, edmakowski.com. That works.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for coming on to Anja Asks Anybody. Next week, we'll be talking to someone else. We'll be talking to anybody.
Thanks for letting me be anybody, Anja.
Yeah.